Hanh, Ian Prattis. In gratitude to our parents who bring us into the world, we touch the earth before the three jewels in the 10 directions. In gratitude to our teachers who show us how to love, to understand, and to live in the present moment, we bow to the three jewels in the 10 directions. Gratitude to our friends who guide us on the path and support us in difficult moments. We bow to the three jewels in the 10 directions. Showing the way fearlessly and compassionately, the stream of our ancestral teachers to whom we bow in gratitude. There's a microphone somewhere.
Is it how? Kin Bach Thai. Here's my insight gatha. Lotus Sutra sings, fresh Dharma rains penetrate, my heart wide open.
This is the insight gatha offered by Brother Thich Nhat Hanh. Lotus Sutra sings, fresh Dharma rains penetrate, my heart wide open. Đây là bài kệ kiến giải của anh Thich Nhat Hanh dâng lên chư tổ. Pháp Hoa Kinh đang ca hát và mưa Pháp đang thấm nhuần. Mưa Pháp tươi mát đang thấm nhuần và trái tim của con đã được mở rộng. This is good. It is accepted by the patriarchs. This is the gatha given to Brother Ian Prattis, Thich Nhat Hanh, during the lamp transmission ceremony organized by the Buddhist Institute of the Plum Village Practice Center in the setting of I Have Arrived, I Am Home, great ordination ceremony from the 7th to the 14th of January in the year of 2003. Đuốc tuệ bừng lên rạng pháp thân, trong mây xa có hạt mưa gần, vòng tay nhận thức ôm năng sợ, một đóa trà mi nở trước sân. The transmission master Trần Quang Nhất Hạnh of the 42nd generation of the Lâm Tế Dhyana School and the 8th generation of the Liễu Quan Dhamma line. Đuốc tuệ bừng lên rạng pháp thân, the torch of wisdom is lit, and my Dhamma Kaya, my Dhamma body shine. Trong mây xa có hạt mưa gần. In the distant cloud there is a drop of rain that is very close. Vòng tay nhận thức ôm năng sợ, the arms of consciousness embrace both subject and object. Một đóa trà mi nở trước sân. A camellia flower just bloomed in front of my yard. Đuốc tuệ bừng lên rạng pháp thân, trong mây xa có hạt mưa gần, vòng tay nhận thức ôm năng sợ, một đóa trà mi nở trước sân. When the torch of wisdom is lit, and then my Dharma body shines, and I realize that in a distant cloud there is one drop of rain that is very close to me, in me. The arms of cognition embraces both subject and object, and that is why I can see a beautiful camellia flower blooming in my front yard. You don't need to explain that. Đuốc tuệ bừng lên rạng pháp thân, trong mây xa có hạt mưa gần, vòng tay nhận thức ôm nắng sơ, một đóa trà mỹ nở trước sân. From the patriarchs, special delivery. Đại sĩ Quan Âm thật tuyệt vời, cánh tay Bồ Tát hiện muôn nơi, không đâu cầu khẩn mà không ứng biến khổ, thuyền dòng cứu độ người. Nam mô Đức Bồ Tát lắng nghe Quan Thế Âm. This lamp transmitted by the Buddha and many generations of patriarchs now is entrusted to you, Brother Thich Nhat Hanh, which means the body of true body of wisdom, true body of understanding. The transformation of the world, the change of the world cannot be possible with the transformation of our consciousness, our collective consciousness. The work to educate ourselves and to educate people is at the base of peace work. We practitioners of the Dharma, we should embody the practice of peace in our daily life. We should be able to restore communication between members of our families, members of our Sangha, members of our society. The practice is very much the same. The practice of deep listening, the practice of loving speech is the practice of Avalokiteshvara. The gatha Thầy just chanted is to praise Avalokiteshvara for her capacity of listening deeply and of using loving speech. Together, we can help transform the way of thinking of the world by our practice and by our sharing of the teaching and of the practice. Brother Thich Nhat Hanh, you have made many efforts to help with transforming the way of thinking of many people by your writing and teaching, especially focusing on the younger generation. We appreciate that. And this lamp is to remind you that you have the support of the Sangha. And if you have the support of the greater Sangha, and then your work will bring a lot of realization and fulfillment. So please keep this lamp shining with your practice, with the practice of your Sangha, so that younger generation will profit from the light of the Buddha. The light of the Buddha is maintained alive by our daily living in peace, living in compassion, and always we should go together like a river. In gratitude to all species in the animal, plant, and mineral worlds who support our life and beautify our world, we touch the earth before the 3 jewels in the 10 directions. Let us stand up to read the new Dharma teacher. Dharma Bụt Na Cao Siêu Mẫu Nhiệm Duyên Mây Đường Nọ Địa Thiên Nguyện Thiên Đạo Biên Thể Tinh
Kinbachtai, dear Sangha, my practice has often been a clumsy and ineffective dance between the ultimate and historical dimensions. Between these two dimensions lies the action dimension, which is secured through the practice of of cultivating the 6 paramitas. This cultivation provides a conduit for the energy of the ultimate dimension to penetrate the domain of the historical dimension. At the same time, the actualization of the 3 Dharma seals takes place as we realize liberation. This is the idea, anyway. My focus today is on my difficulties with this main idea of dancing between the ultimate and historical dimension. Thai uses the wonderful analogy of waves and water. Waves rise, they fall, and they die on some seashore or riverbank. This is the analogy for the historical dimension. No matter what attributes are applied to waves, there is, however, a constant. While a wave is about its business of being high or low, born or dying, coming or going, it is always water. The constant of water is what Thai refers to as the ultimate dimension. With the interconnected nature of waves and water, the idea is that if we touch the waves of life deeply with our insight, then we can touch the water of life, the ultimate dimension we call nirvana, or the kingdom of heaven. You'll see I have difficulties with this analogy. I have heard Thai many times express the waves and water analogy, and the metaphorical qualities make intellectual sense. But my experience was such that deep looking into my waves did not lead me to touch the water of the ultimate dimension. My waves did not shoot me through, as I certainly expected, because Thai had said so. But this wasn't happening. So there was a disjunction between intellectual acceptance and the lack of personal experience. So there are 3 logical options for me to investigate. The first option was that my teacher was incorrect, to use this analogy. The second option was that perhaps my teacher was generous and chose not to chart the difficulties for his disciples of this transition from waves to water. The third option was that just perhaps something crucial was missing from my practice. I eliminated the first option, as I have faith and trust in my teacher. There may be something to the second option, as I know how generous a teacher Thai is. Yet I realized very early on that the real investigation was the third option. To investigate just what was the crucial piece in my practice that was missing. You see, dear friends, I was very aware that my waves were too small to carry me through to the ultimate dimension. Too small in terms of insufficient concentration, insight, and mindfulness. What I needed and prayed for was a tidal wave, a tsunami in Japanese, so that my waves would be full of concentration, mindfulness, and insight. And this extra energy would provide the voltage, the oomph, if you like, to push me through the waves into the water. Now, a tidal wave is quite fascinating because it has the properties of increasing energy and appears to disobey the second law of thermodynamics. So my investigation was into my internal state for the causes and conditions that would make my waves into tidal waves, full of concentration, mindfulness, and insight. I stumbled across what was to take place. It was silence, deep silence. That is where I found the causes and conditions that could provide tidal waves of undiminishing energy, both to my cells and to my consciousness. I could then truly look deeply into my suffering, into the dark areas that held hostage all my mental formations of a negative nature. And so over the past 10 years, I built more and more silence into my everyday life. On a daily basis, I stop to look deeply. And I also dialogue with the feminine seeds in my consciousness, listening deeply to the communications from the wholesome attributes of feminine wisdom, insight, and compassion within me to address issues and questions. For a long time now, this has been and still is my fieldwork of life. Observation and understanding the field of consciousness within me through the eyes of the internal feminine. My profession enabled me to set aside blocks of time, and my home and Sangha life, supported by my wife Carolyn and the entire Pine Gate Sangha in Ottawa, enabled me to retreat into silence on a regular basis. In this way, through silence, deep silence, and deep looking, my waves became bigger, more infused with concentration, insight, and mindfulness. As I continued to stop in the silence and look deeply into my shadows, there emerged the experience of touching the water. My teacher was correct. I had to discover for myself the significance of silence, deep looking and consulting with the wisdom of the internal feminine. The fruits of this practice were particularly manifest in how I went about studying the Lotus Sutra. After Thay's Hand of the Buddha retreat, I applied myself to study Burton Watson's 1993 translation of the Lotus Sutra, from the Chinese version done by Kumarajiva in 406 CE. Prior to this study, I was much more comfortable with accepting the Buddha in the historical form. The story of the Buddha, his life, his awakening, and his ministry, they were enough for me. I had not paid too much attention to the Buddha in the ultimate dimension. That changed radically through reading the Lotus Sutra from my practice of silence. For in the Lotus Sutra, the Buddha in the ultimate dimension is revealed in no uncertain terms. In its beauty, grandeur, and compelling intimacy with all that is, ever was, and ever will be, my discomfort and skepticism about the ultimate dimension of the Buddha disappeared. As I read different chapters of the Lotus Sutra, I found myself transported into the worlds and dimensions described. I would read a little, then put the book down as I felt myself going deeply into meditation. I was profoundly moved by the words, the dimensions, and by the energy. It would put me into a trance-like state. And Carol, my wife, would come home and see me in this state, and she'd say, you've been reading the Lotus Sutra again, haven't you? So my direct experience of this Mahayana masterpiece brought home many insights. The most pertinent one being that without the practice of deep silence, I could not experience this Mahayana masterpiece in this way. So I came through this process with so much interconnection in my awareness, which all wove together like a spider's web glistening in the morning dew. It was all so lovely. Lotus Sutra sings, fresh Dharma rains penetrate, my heart wide open.
Te thuyang pa ma